great visitation to Yeshayahu the prophet in the year that King Uzziah died. And among all the visions that he saw and the wonders that he perceived, he fell on his face. He says, I am a man of Tamei Fatim. My lip, and I'm a people of Saphai, of Tamei Sephatim. I have this Saphat, I have the same thing that was at the Tower of Babel, and everybody around me's got the same thing that was at the Tower of Babel. We're all like under this condemnation. So if we see that, this is what the world had. One Sapha, one sarcastic narrative, one cynical approach, one negative concept. It said if this is what they begin to build whenever, this is the Holy One talking, if this is what they begin to build when they have this sarcastic, cynical, negative approach, then nothing will be impossible from them. They can build any horrible thing they want. They can build any perverse system. They can build any religion. They can build any organizational structure. They can build any institution. They can build any government. They can build one world order. They can build anything they want to. If this is the way it's going to be, if I allow this to continue, if I don't intervene, the Holy One would say, if I don't intervene, then the world will continue to get worse and worse with its sarcasm, its cynicism, its lip, and its negativity. And they will build this stuff. So he says, I'm going to... nothing will be impossible or unattainable for them. And so he says, I'm going to go down and I'm going to, balal, I'm going to take the same word for Babel, the same verb that lies at the root of Babel, and I'm going to do something. And it means in Hebrew to pour over. And I'm going to cover up, I'm going to confuse, but by virtue of putting in something extra. And so what we think of as language as being different, and then we tie the day of Pentecost to something that happened at the Tower of Babel, which is not what happened at all. What he says, I'm going to put so much stuff in people's lip that they can't even converse with each other peacefully. They'll be so at odds with one another. I'm going to make them a house divided, and a house divided cannot stand. And so that's really what he does. He said the Holy One balaled, he poured over the safa, the lip of all the earth, and from there, from Babel, he scattered, sowed like seed, all abroad, al panei kol haaretz, all over the face of the earth. So here's what we have. A bunch of confused, negative, selfish people being sent to every nook and cranny and hillside and valley of the entire earth. Now do you see why we need a strategic initiative? Why there needs to be some intervention take place, because he wants the people scattered, but what he does not want them scattered is sown like seed into the earth to make it fruitful, to make it full. He does not want it to be a negative aspect. He wants to be positive. So what he's going to do, what the rest of the Bible, the rest of the Torah, the rest of the prophets, the rest of the writings, the rest of the New Testament, the rest of the Gospels, the rest of the Revelation, everything else is going to be about this strategic initiative. Starts here. And he's going to start with Avraham. And this is where we're going to go. That's why we're all sons and daughters of Avraham. He is the father of all of our faith, as it says in English in that process. And so here we start with this. The idea of this week is to embrace the king's vision. The king I'm talking about, the creator himself. He's the king of the universe. He's the great king. So to embrace his vision and his plan for fixing the world. And we say fixing in Texas. So I'm in Texas. So we talk about fixing. We fix things. We're fixing to do things, but we're fixing things. And fixing means that we see its state of disrepair, its state of imperfection, its state of need, and we are going to apply some level of intervention to it, hopefully wisely, in such a way as to make the situation better. Whatever situation we got, we're going to make it better. Not only are we going to make it better, we're going to make it functional. Not only are we going to make it functional, we're going to make it fruitful and multiply, and we're going to make it where it can reproduce itself generation after generation after generation. Now you see what fixing it looks like, and the Holy One intends to fix it. Now, it's not his plan. It may not be exactly like our plan. We'd like to snap our fingers. and fix it. We'd like to pop it on the head and make it fall down under the power and fix it. But he said, no, I'm going to fix it in a way that will stun the principalities and powers. I'm going to do it in a way that's going to attract the attention of the world. That's going to stun and silence the voices of negativity and criticism in the earth over generations and over generations. I'm going to do it like I did the Israelites I would do with the land. One little bit at a time. 1 square inch, 1 square foot, 1 square meter of the earth at a time, unless there be too many things that distract. So in that process, he's going to give us a vision for fixing the world. Do you have a vision for fixing the world? Or are you all caught up in self-image, self-desire, self-attitude, self-gratitude, self-gratification? Are you worried about how things are, how it's affecting you? Are you here for the purpose of the Creator of the universe's plan and His strategic initiative being done through you and through your life? Embracing the King's vision and plan for fixing the world. I call this also great adventures in strategic counterculture pushback. Great adventures in strategic countercultural pushback. I told you the earth is about to be filled with a bunch of raving lunatics. Self-willed, self-gratifying, self-aggrandizing, self-focused, self-motivated, very arrogant, proud, one-world orders folks that are they're just destructive in everything they do and everything they say. They got a lip on them. They got a sarcasm about them. They got a cynicism about them. They got a sharp tongue and a sharp lip, and they're unclean. They're about to be filled with that, so now the issue is we need a counterculture. I want to build, the Holy One says, I want to build a counterculture. I want to build it slowly. I want to build it carefully. I want to build it in such a way they don't even know what's happening to them. They don't even recognize what is happening. I'm about to build a counterculture that's going to undo all the negativity they do and fix the world. Now, that's a pretty good, ambitious plan. And so we're at that stage now where the Holy One says, I'm going to start releasing the strategic initiative, and I'm going to use a man named Avraham. Well, strategic initiatives, by their nature, require planning. They don't just happen on an ad hoc, as we needed basis. In other words, what we're going to see develop and unfold before our eyes, and hopefully participate in, is a plan that was designed before the foundation of the world. Before Adam fell, before the serpent spoke, before Hava took the fruit, before any of those things, before Cain slew Hevel, before they built a tower, before they were corrupt and violent in the face of the earth and caused the flood. Before any of that took place, a grand plan was designed, the Creator of the universe. And we get a chance, we get the opportunity, the invitation to play a part in that grand plan. Strategic initiatives require strategic planning and strategic design. Everything must be designed to incorporate and to accommodate what's going to happen. And so He's created the universe, and particularly the earth, in a way in which will accommodate what He's about to do. That's why He will have 1,000 years reign, folks. That's why there will be a messianic reign upon the actual earth. Not in some heavenly ethereal complex somewhere. There will be a world to come, but the kingdom on earth will take place. Not in our lifetime, perhaps, but we'll see it. In addition to the strategic planning and design and involvement as a creator, there needs to be a strategic withdrawal, a sort of a vacancy or a vacuum created, so that the anti-strategy can enter in and have its day. And we can see why we need fixing, why we need the strategic initiative. And so the Holy One will pull back, as He did with Adam, and let them go out in the world, and did not mess with, you didn't see any conversations with Adam after the fall, after that process, after the expulsion. And so his idea, he withdraws himself, he hides himself behind a veil in order that evil, or Ra, may proliferate, and we can see it and get a real bad distaste in our mouth. A sort of a sick feeling in our stomach, a sense that something's got to change down here. This can't go on the way it is. Are you there yet? Are you ready? Have Have you watched what the world can do and what the politicians can do and what the media can say? Have you listened to all the unclean lips and unclean tongues? And have you listened to all the lips? All the sarcasm and the cynicism? Have you listened to enough of it yet? Are you, as the Holy One wants to know, are you ready to move forward now with the strategic initiative? Do you want to fix the world, or you want to leave it the way it is and just let it go to wherever in a handbasket? So the strategic season of withdrawal. And hopefully for all of us, as it was for Avraham, that season of withdrawal is about to end. Hopefully we're about to see a change in the environment, a shift in the atmosphere that's going to open up a new possibility, new parameters, new vision, new perspective, and new focus upon our life, rather than focus on what's wrong, what's bad, what's evil, what's horrible, though it may be. So the strategic season of withdrawal comes, and the next thing is a strategically timed and choreographed intervention. We're not going to fix the world by ourselves. We can't fix the world by ourselves. We could mess it up worse trying to fix the world ourselves. So the Holy One himself is going to break what I call the finity barrier. You know, the world is set up the universe was set up, designed by the Holy One to have a seen realm and an unseen realm. In the seen realm, things are temporal and mortal. They live, they die. They're always in the process of decay, growth and decay. That's a mortal, corporeal, physical realm that we see. But there's also another realm. And that realm is the unseen. And it is the eternal. And it is the immortal and the invisible. And what he has to do, there is a barrier between the two. So it's like he told to Avraham, or actually to Lazarus. Avraham was talking to Lazarus in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. And the conversation was, there's a great gulf between the two that no man can pass. Avraham tells Lazarus. And so there's this gulf between the two, but I call it the finity barrier, where we know it's back there. I mean, I had a little conversation with my granddaughter this week, and she was saying, why can't we see Yeshua? Why can't I see him when I talk to him? I said, and I had a box here, and I said, okay, so do you see, it was a box of cereal. Do you see the cereal box? Yeah, I can see the cereal box. I took my hand and I put my hand behind the cereal box like this. She could see all the things that stretched out my arm, but behind, and I said, is my hand behind the cereal box? She said, yeah. I said, how do you know my hand's behind the cereal box? Well, I can see your arm, and I know where your hand is. And because I know where your hand is, then I know your hand has to be behind the cereal box. Can you see it? No, I can't see it. Do you believe it's there? I know it's there. Well, that's the way it works between the seen and the unseen realm, usually. But sometimes, when it's time, when the season of withdrawal and the time of intervention comes, he blasts through that finity barrier like it wasn't there. Now, this will mess up your theology. I can't fix it for you. I don't even want to fix it for you. Because I know he's a spirit, he's incorporeal, he has no body, he has no shape. So why does it say he appeared? You know, and he says that he spoke, and you can't speak unless you have substance moving upon sound waves and sending out sound waves. You have to have substance to create sound. Now, if you understand this, he breaks the finity barrier. Thank the heavens. Thank our God. He comes into our lives and breaks the finity barrier. He comes into our world. He takes the initiative, strategic initiative. He takes the initiative, and he comes into our world, and he speaks. Now, I will tell you that I don't have a written, flat-out book here like Hollis has or some of the others that you have here. That is his written word. He not only has spoken to us orally, he has now given us a substantive version of what he has spoken. So we have that book as well as this. These are his ways of breaking the finity barrier. And, of course, that's who Yeshua is, right? He is him breaking the finity barrier. To show him us what he looks like when he moves. Come into our world and show him us who he is. Now, so he breaks the finity barrier, he intervenes, and his intervention is going to set the strategic initiative in place. And then his way of doing this is, look, I could come in and fix it myself, but that wouldn't bring glory to to my plan. That wouldn't put shock in the ears, the eyes of the principalities and powers. I want to do it with men. I want to do it with human beings. Some of those people that you think are so far gone they can't be rescued. Some of those people who are so weak and so silly and so ignorant and so full of folly that I want to touch them and I want to bring them forth and I want to confound the wise with the simple. And I want to use the weak to shame the strong. And that's how I will do this plan. And so he forges and manages a strategic alliance with mankind, with men, with individual men. He doesn't choose the rich. Paul makes it clear. Very seldom will he choose a rich man. Very seldom will he choose somebody who is considered by the world to be wise in science or wise in medicine or wise in some other form of knowledge. Very seldom will he ever choose them, and he has to work with them really hard because they're harder to deal with. He says, I want to choose the poor. I want to choose the weak. I want to choose the barren women. I want to choose the broken of society. I want to choose those who have failed and know what failure looks like. So he makes a strategic alliance. That involves a strategic, first of all, an investment in that person's life. He invests in us. He invests kingdom resources, but he invests his time. He invests his patience. He invests his discipline into ordinary human beings' life to train them up. I know people like to think about a one-time religious experience or a spiritual experience of some variety. See, that's not the way I work. I have those experiences, but that's just the foundation of what I'm going to do. I keep building and building. I never quit. I never give up. I never leave you nor forsake you, but I don't leave you the way you are. I'm continuing to build you and grow you and strengthen you and nurture you because, you see, I'm investing myself, the key resources of heaven, the time that you know of his time, into you that I may see this strategic alliance burst forth. Because it's not just about you. It's about the strategic initiative. It's about fixing the world. You're not just here to go to heaven when you die. You're not just here to have a good life when you live here. You're not just here to hopefully have a good family in life and maybe make a little money and leave a legacy for your children. That's not what you're here for. If that happens, so be it. But you're here for the strategic initiative. That's what your mission is. So he says, I want to strategically invest, and then I'm going to give you strategic instructions. The instructions are sort of a test to you. Now, I want to use Noah as my example. Noah, we went through a whole season on Noah, a discussion last week about Noah. And Noah had two focuses. He was before covenant, before we get to the deepest levels of the strategic initiative. He says, I've got to show you a pattern. First of all, listen to what I say. Listen, Noah, listen. All he gave Noah was specific instructions. How many cubits to build the ark? What kind of wood to use? How many floors to put the ark into? How the animals were going to come. Just follow direct instructions. This is lowest level. Lowest level of God-man interactions. Just follow instructions. Don't ask me why. We don't have conversations about this. You just follow the instructions. And then, why do you follow the instructions, Noah? Noah's viewpoint is, for me and my family. It's all about me and my family. I want to survive. I want my family to survive. So it's all about me and my little family. And I'll follow his instructions for the sake of me and my little family. And the rest of the world, well, we're just not focusing on that. That's the Noahic approach. And that was a part of it. We have to first be able to see that we need to learn that he has instructions that need to be followed, and that our family is very, very important. But that's not the strategic initiative, not to save our families. The strategic initiative is to fix the world. It's to fix all the nations. It's to bring the redemptive plan into operation and the restorative plan into operation. So, in addition to the strategic strategic instructions, he gives strategic assignments. And then he gives strategic briefing protocols. Briefing protocols. Now, what you're going to find out with that life with Avraham and his relationship with Avraham, and thus his relationship with us, is significantly deeper than his relationship with Noah. We're going to talk about the layers at which it's deeper than that. We're going to talk about how from a protocol standpoint, how it got deeper. and how it developed and nurtured and grew over the course of time. And so we're going to see that he's going to have this briefing protocols. And that is what he wants for us, is to have not just the ability to follow immediate instructions and straight laws. He wants us to be able to get briefings from him and see how things apply in situations that don't have any specific instruction to it. And so he's going to do that, give us those briefing protocols. And then he's going to give us strategic periodic accountability protocols. Strategic periodic accountability protocols. If he's going to train us up, if he's going to be the master of our apprentice program, master craftsman of our apprentice program, if he's going to train us and disciple us in how to be his strategic initiative partners, then we need to have a true up. We need to be able to be accountable to him. And so he builds into the calendar, our calendar and our covenant, he builds strategic seasons of accountability. One every year is Yom Kippur. On the Day of Atonement, every year we have a true up. How have we done? How are we doing? What do we need to change? How does this need to be fixed? What have we got messed up? How are we contributing to the lip of the world and the sarcasm and the cynicism and the negativity of the world? How are we being counterculture? How are we being the culture of the unclean lip? So that's one of the things Yom Kippur is. We also have a monthly, the Rosh Hashanah, the new moon. Every new moon, we get a refreshing of the cycle of life. And it's not a fast day, it's a feast day. We're supposed to celebrate. And in the celebration, we're supposed to say, it's good to celebrate. It's good to celebrate my King. It's good to celebrate the renewal and the refreshment of creation. And then, of course, every seventh day, which is today, we're on the seventh day of the calendar, and this is every seventh day is a recalculation, a refreshment, and this also is a built-in divine strategic accountability protocol. We need to learn how to appear for our roll call. I'm not talking about appear here. I mean, I'm glad you're here. We love to appear together. And we love to appear together with everyone who's watching by the camera. But that's not the appearance I'm talking about. The appearance I'm talking about is to actually appear and give account to the Holy One. He's not angry with us. He wants to correct us. He wants to nurture us. He wants to invest again in us to bring us to where we are. I wish to also tell you, I know I'm summarizing a lot before I get to the specifics of this parsha, but I want you to know what we're doing before we get to what we're actually going to see, what the Holy One's doing, what his plan is. And one of those things, when I talk about the strategic briefing protocols, he wants to give us and teach us rules of engagement. Because if we don't have rules of engagement, we're going to respond to the world or react to the world. We're going to react to other people. We're going to react to situations. We're going to react to distractions. We're going to react to issues in the world or in our physical, personal lives or our health. We're going to react on the basis of our flesh. He says, no, I'm going to give you rules of engagement. And I want you to learn from me how to implement rules of engagement. How do you interact with your world? Let's talk about the culture that we're counter to. How do you interact with the culture that you're counter to? The way of Cain culture, the New World Order culture, the narrative, the lippy narrative culture. How do you react to that? How do you respond, I should say? Because most of us react. But he's trying to teach us rules of protocol. Rules of engagement protocol. Don't overreact. Don't react in the flesh. Don't get angry. Don't spout off. Don't give them back what they gave you. Don't follow their pattern of behavior. Instead, stay at shalom. Fight like it's the most important thing you could do is stay at shalom in your spirit. Never sell your shalom for irritation or aggravation or frustration or fear or intimidation by the world. You have the creator of the universe intervening and breaking the finity barrier and investing in your life. You don't need to react to what's going on around you in the flesh. And then what about not just the world around you? What about your community, your own community who is also called to this same? How do you respond when you deal with them? Your neighbor, your brother, as the Torah seems to indicate. Brother, Torah, community. How do you react? You need to have special rules of engagement for how you deal with other members of your community. And don't resort to ways, worldly views, worldly perspectives, what you see on social media. Don't do that. Don't go that route. Use the kingdom protocols. And then finally, your own family, your own spouse, your own children, if you have them, your own parents, if you have them living, your own brothers, your own sisters, your own lineal family below you, beneath you, and your lineal family above you, your nuclear family around you. How do you respond? These rules of engagement are important. Noah only got that. He only got the rules of engagement about his family. He didn't get the rules of engagement about the community. There was no community. He didn't have a vision for a community. He didn't have anything about the rules of engagement with regard to the world in general, because the world was going to disappear. But we don't have that. The world is not going to disappear. Then the lippy ones will not go away. They're not supposed to. We're supposed to fix the world by virtue of being in partnership and covenant with the creator of the universe, being trained by him, guided by him, taught by him, trained by him, and we are to find that way. So, there are fascinating readings that go along with this parsha, and I don't have time to talk about them other than just to give it to you. If you've got a long day of Shabbat before sundown, hopefully if some of those in the eastern part of the universe, maybe not so much, but for those of us in the western hemisphere, you do. You got still several hours, and so I encourage you to follow up with these supplemental readings. The Haftarah, the prophet section from the prophets, is Isaiah 40, verse 27 through 41, verse 16. Wow, does it ever tell you the plan? It starts out with those who wait upon the Holy One will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings as eagles. It goes on, talk about what the plan is. I'll let you read that on your own. 40:27 of Isaiah through 41:16. From the Brit Hadashah, from the New Testament, as many people call it, Romans chapter 4, verses 1 through 25. Shaul talking about what God did through Avraham, what God did through our father Abraham, which is what our subject matter of our parsha is this week, how he began to change the world through his strategic initiative that was focused around through the lineage of this man named Avraham. And then our Amidah prayer focus, if you are going with me through the Shemona Esrei, the 18 paragraphs of the standard traditional prayer that we believe that the Lord's Prayer was modeled after the Holy One's, Yeshua's, how he taught us. The one where the paragraph we're talking about this week, have been talking about all week, is the Kadosh. You are holy. It's our speaking out to the Holy One. Before we ask any things, declaring to him, recognizing him for who he is. You are Kedusha. You are Kadosh. You are full of the energy of the unseen, eternal, immortal realm. We recognize that we're not the ones telling you what to do. We're coming to you and bowing before you. You are holy, and your name is holy. And it goes on from there. So I'll leave those things for you to review when you can. Where did we leave off last week? In the aftermath of the flood, the 4 surviving human couples set out to reestablish life on planet Earth. But men have established lifestyles independent of the Holy One. So the Holy One has divided them into nations, into tribes and tongues, each of which serves its own interest. We have thus developed ethnic divisions. We judge each other on the basis of our pigmentation of our skin, or the region of the earth from which we come, or the nation whose government we affiliate with. Sarcasm and lip. There it is. This is the filthy lip to even think that that's the way the Holy One wishes us to do these things. But we do it, so we're divided, and we have prejudices, we have wars, we have jealousies, we have envies. We divide each other from each other according to class, economic class. The rich are this way, and the poor are that way, and the middle class are so and so. And the proletariat needs to rise up in a revolt. We'll see you after the revolution. This whole unclean mindset has filtered its way through all populations. There's not one culture better than another. There's not one ethnicity more righteous or moral than another. There is not one nation that has superiority in this regard than others. We're all alike. Paul made it very clear. All united, all brought together Ethnicity doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. Your nationality doesn't matter. Your religion doesn't matter. You're all alike under this thing. All men have sinned and fallen short of the glory of the Holy One. Now, that being the case, we got this problem. In the 10th generation after the flood, a descendant of Shem, Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. One of those sons was Shem. And a descendant of Shem named Terach had 3 sons. First son was Nahor. Actually, we don't know the age, but it's actually listed that Avraham was the first son. But Avraham, Haran, and Nachor. 3 boys. Now, Haran, they were living in Ur of the Chaldees in the area near Babylon, Mesopotamia. And before anybody left that area, Haran had a child named Lot, as most people in Texas might call him, Lot. And he was the only son, at least, of Haran. And then Haran died, and Lot becomes a very important part of a very important group, the fatherless. Lot becomes among the fatherless. And who is a father to the fatherless? Well, you know the answer to that question. The Holy One, he will involve Avraham to become for him the surrogate father of the fatherless. And so Avraham, the son, the uncle, takes in his nephew Lot because he's the fatherless. Now, we're going to deal with fatherless a lot in Torah, in Scripture. This is so critical to us understanding. This is one of our key inlet points of the strategic initiative. You're not going to go to the rich and the famous and the happy and the blessed, all those folks in the world and bring the strategic initiative. You're going to find the poor and the widow and the fatherless and the broken and the sick and the foreigner who is out of their orientation and realm. And that's the ones you're going to have the input to. Yeshua taught this lesson very clearly. I didn't come to go deal with rich men all day. I came for the prostitute, and I came for the tax collector, and I came for the broken one, the sick one. I came for the possessed and oppressed by the unclean spirits of this world. That's who I came for, because that's my inlet point. Well, so he introduces us just by introducing Lot to this idea of there's one of the categories of people that we will have an immediate ability to input, the fatherless. They need somebody. They should be at that point of saying, I've had enough. I've heard enough lip. I've heard enough promises. I've heard enough noise. I've heard enough science. I've heard enough medicine. I've heard enough theory. I've heard enough religion. I'm broken down here. I'm hurting down here. And that's not enough for me. I need something more than that. I need an intervention. I need a divine alliance. I need a strategic initiative to take place in my life. Well, that will take place with the poor, and it will take place with the widow, and that will take place with the foreigner, and it will take place with the Levite. It will take place with those in the most need, and that's where we recognize that's the place. You're not trying to break down the walls of society, not trying to break down the walls of education or the institutions of this or that. We go to the ones who need it most. So in the 10th generation, we have these folks are living, and then we see that Terach, for some reason, he leaves Ur of the Chaldees and heads off. He's headed for Canaan, the land that we now know as Israel. But he didn't make it. We don't know what happened. We're not told what happened to Terach. Maybe he got distracted. Maybe he ran out of money. We don't know why, but Terach didn't have the vision. He just wanted to go. And so Terach gets to this place that he calls Haran by the name of his dead son. That's careful. It's the Haran Memorial. You know, a lot of buildings are called this memorial or that memorial. Be careful with memorials. Anyway, this is the Haran Memorial. He sets up his camp in the memorial to his dead son. And there's Avraham and his wife Sarai, and they're getting old. Avraham, by the time we get started in this process, is 75. Sarai is 65. They got no kids. They're not going to have any kids. They got no hope of having kids. Have you heard? Sarah's barren. Huh. She can't have kids. It's a scandal. This is her shame. This is her private nightmare. And it's public. Everybody knows it. And so she hears them whispering, whether they're whispering or not. Sarah lo yalde. Sarah can't have babies, can't have children. Sarah's defective. Sarah's broken. She's a good candidate for the king's intervention. But at any rate, we have this process, and then we have it living in the same household. We first had Terach, but Terach dies there in Haran. And then we have living in the same household with Avraham and his barren wife Sarai. We have his brother Nahor. And Nahor is married, and he's got kids, and the house is getting kind of full, but none of these are Avraham and Sarah's. Lot's there. So it just isn't working. Now, if you read the book of Joshua in chapter 24, when Yehoshua is charging the nation of Israel, the descendants of Avraham that we haven't got to yet, the great unseen vision that's going to come to pass, and Yehoshua will look him in the eye and talk to him and speak to him. And he's going to say, you know, your fathers, including your father Terach and his sons, lived on the other side of the river. Of course, now we're in Canaan land, and we're now in Israel, and now we've conquered, and now we're ready to take possession of our possession. And so he's going to say, your fathers, including Terach and his brothers and his sons, lived on the other side of the river, and they served other gods. That phrase right there should just send shockwaves down your spine. Nahor, Lot, Haran, Avraham in his youth, in his 74th and a half year. Now, I know there are legends and there are stories that come out of the Talmud, and we try to make sense of the whole process. But basically what Yehoshua was saying is, look, there was a great event that took place that changed everything for this family. And you're here as a result of that. But your fathers, they weren't superstars. They weren't super brains. They worshiped, they served other gods. That was their heritage. That was their culture. That's what their ethnicity. That's what their faith, what their institutions got them. Their socialization got them. They served other gods. He says, now choose this day. This is what Yehoshua says at that same passage. Now choose this day whom you will serve. And the people say, we will serve the Holy One, our God. We will be part of that great vision that he released over Avraham. We embrace the vision of the healing and the fixing of the world through this bloodline. And so he says, the Holy One, our God, they say, the Holy One, our God, we will serve and we will shema, we will listen to. We get this process. Well, seemingly in this week's parsha, it begins seemingly out of nowhere. Here's Avraham out making his daily, I presume, shepherd cycle. Got a little flock, maybe a big flock, got a flock of sheep out there in the middle of nowhere doing his usual thing. I'm sure thinking about the fact that it's getting kind of crowded back at home, but none of those kids are his. Who knows what he's thinking about? But somehow or other, the finity barrier is about to shatter in a million pieces. The finity barrier is about to crush, and the invisible realm is about to enter the visible. And the inaudible realm is about to enter the audible. And the structural, physical, corporeal realm is about to be invaded by the invisible, incorporeal realm. The spirit is going to become flesh. And so he's going to put on this form and shape and sound, and he's going to intervene in Abraham's life. And it is going to change the world. He is about to introduce the strategic initiative for creation and for mankind. And we're going to take our time. We're going to stand right now. We're going to listen to what this conversation is, what the Holy One says, how he breaches this. So we're going to stand. And I'm going to read the first few verses of chapter 12 aloud. If you read with me. You don't have to read out loud. If you may have a different version or whatever. I'm going to read the New King James because that's just what's convenient to me. Off of line. Our practice in this house, and those of you who've watched before, you know, those who've been here, you've obviously know that before we touch this word, before it touches our mind, our eyes, or our mouth, we try to reconnect with the Creator of the universe. And so these blessings come out of Psalm 119. Every one of them comes word for word out of Psalm 119. Open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from us. Our souls cry out for your judgments at all times. How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your Torah. For your Torah is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our paths. The entrance of your word brings light and understanding, even to the simple. Amen. And now the Holy One said to Avraham, Hebrew would be Lecha. English, translated as, get out of your country, away from your family and from your father's house. Go to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will become a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and he who curses you, I will curse. And in you will all the families of the earth be blessed. And so Avraham departed, just as the Holy One had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Avraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Avraham took his wife Sarai, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. And so they came to the land of Canaan, and Avraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem. By the way, Shechem is where Joshua had this conversation that we read earlier, discussed earlier. Later, Avraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh, and the Canaani were then in the land. And the Holy One appeared to Avraham, and he said, to your seed I will give this land. And there Avraham built an altar to the Holy One who had appeared to him. And then Avraham moved from there to the mountain east of Bet-El, and he pitched his tent with Bet-El on the west and Ai on the east. And there he also built an altar to the Holy One, and he called on the name of the Holy One. And so Avraham journeyed, going on still toward the south. But there was a famine in the land, and Avraham went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. Amen. You may be seated. The intervention. The finity barrier is broken. The strategic initiative is being released. What is it going to consist of? What's going to happen in this week? Well, you've already seen the first part of it, but it's going to be more than that. The first famine, you've heard about that. The first famine recognized in the Torah is spoken. Why is there going to be a famine? Why is it suddenly going to be a famine? There's a strategic initiative involved. The famine is going to be part of the reordering and restructuring of the whole land of Canaan, so that a base of operations can take place. But that's going to take generations to unfold. And it's going to be prophetic of something that's going to happen later. Another famine is going to send the people to Israel. And so we're going to see that. And then the next thing is that we're going to see Avram's going to go to Egypt. And this little sheep herder, 75-year-old sheep herder from the outback of Mesopotamia, is going to deal with the king of Egypt. Stand before kings. And not only is he going to stand before a king, he's going to get favor from Pharaoh. In the midst of him being a little bit duplicitous, how about flat out lying? about his relationship with Sarai. We got all sorts of issues of why in the world Sarai, a 65-year-old woman, was taken in the harem of Pharaoh, but we can discuss that another day or maybe over coffee sometime. But here's the issue of why suddenly is Avraham, this old sheep herder, suddenly becoming buddy-buddy with the kings of the earth. And it's just the beginning. We haven't even got deep into this. It's just Egypt yet. And then we're going to see this favor being poured out. And what the Holy One's doing is building trust in Avraham. He's building a resume. So has he been building a resume with you? He's been building a resume with me for 50-something years now. He never quits. He just keeps building that resume. Time after time after time. I think it's impossible something could take place. He gives me safe journeys when I should die. He helps me overcome my own failures and my own mistakes when I should be condemned. And he keeps building and building and investing in me, and he's building a resume. So the Holy One's building this resume without, he hadn't cut covenant with him yet. That's going to wait. He has to have a partner who will trust him before he can cut covenant. We'll see covenant comes in chapter 15. And then 17. It's actually a two-stage process. And it actually starts again in 22. We're going to see a whole lifetime of covenant cutting between Avraham and the Holy One. It deepens and deepens as we go. Now, those of you who like to throw around the theological term called the New Covenant, perhaps you can understand how this works. There ain't no new covenant. It's the same old covenant. It's just renewed at deeper and deeper and deeper levels, to deeper and deeper, deeper intense, to deeper convictions and deeper impact upon the world. And so that's what's going to happen here. And so we're going to have the first, then he's going to come back rich from Egypt, totally beyond his imagination rich. So rich that he's too much stuff to take care of and too many animals to take care of to have a peaceful coexistence. This is our covenant community, protocols, rules of engagement. It isn't working. The shepherds, the sheep herders of Lut and the sheep herders of Avraham are fighting over everything, and they disagree. And so we split. We have a great split. Ouch. The fatherless is finally ready to go off on his own. We nurtured him for how many decades? I don't know. But now the time of the codependency is over, and he's ready to move on. And Avraham must move on, too. He was the enabler, but he's ready to move on, too. And so we have this split. Sometimes people who enabled you in previous seasons need to be let go. And so that's what happens here. And then in the midst of that, the Holy One's going to break the finity barrier again. He's going to come and say, Avraham, let's take a walk. Come walk with me, Avraham. I want to walk the length and the depth and the breadth of this land. And I want you to walk with me. And so he gets him moving across the face of the earth. Meanwhile, what happens? World War breaks out. The first World War takes place. And you see about in chapter 14 of Genesis, the whole story of the kings of the north coming down and attacking the kings of where all the wealth was in Canaan, Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain. And they have this major war. It takes 12 years for it to all develop. As Avraham walked in the fields for 12 years, I walk in the whole land for 12. We don't know. But he's not involved in the war. He's not a part of the war. Until. What happens is, of course, that the kings of the north win the war. And they sack Sodom and they sack Gomorrah. And they take the loot. They take all the goods, all the possessions. And this is all happening on Avraham's life watch. He's watching it develop. He traded down in Sodom and Gomorrah. That was his nature. And so he watches it, and he knows Lot's down there. And, of course, not only do they take all the goods, they take Lot and his family. Now, Lot's got married. Lot's got children, 2 daughters. So Avraham, sheep herder with no military training, strikes up an alliance with a couple of the Amorites there, brother of Anar and the brother of Eshcol. And they put together a little band of sheep herders. And they just proceed out to attack the most powerful, most well-trained army in the face of the earth with five united front kings. It happens every day in your world, right? And, of course, what happens is, miraculously, none of these little group of band of sheep herders gets hurt, but they completely rout the army of the most powerful army of the world, and they take back everything they stole, and Lot and his family are all safely rescued. Consider the resume being built. Consider the level of trust going way up. Now, have you had experiences, maybe not quite like that, but dramatic experiences where you know nothing else could explain what just took place other than the goodness of God, his investment of kingdom resources, time, energy, and power into your life. So that happens, and then Avraham meets the king of Sodom, and he has all this wealth. I mean, here's the thing about Avraham. Avraham was loaded down with more wealth than Bill Gates, George Soros, and anybody else you can all throw in all together. And Avraham kept giving it away. He wasn't moved by wealth. He wasn't moved by the idea that you could have. He had a vision because of this vision that took place with him. He had a vision for the strategic initiative. And so he comes back with all this stuff, and he gives it to the king of Sodom. So here it is. I don't want as much as a shoelace. What we ate, that's about it. What these guys ate, that's all we want. And he gives it away. And so he's dealt with the king of Egypt. He's dealt with the kings of the north in military confrontations and won. And he's dealt with the king of Sodom, who is the richest man of that time in the earth. And he gives him back all of the stuff that he lost. And now he's going to meet one more king before the day's over. And his king's name is Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, the king of Salem, it said, Shalom, the king of Shalom, the king of Jerusalem, as he's loaded with God. And he's this mysterious guy that shows up that has no lineage, as described. And Melchizedek and Avraham have this encounter. And who brings the bread? You know, usually when we have a dinner together, go out to your house or whatever, what can I bring? And in this situation, Melchizedek says, you don't need to bring anything. Just come. I'll provide you the bread, and I'll provide you the wine. So he provides the bread and the wine. He serves Avraham bread and wine, this king, this great king. And we can have your own ideological or theological or spiritual ideas of who that might be. But we don't have time to talk about that right now. We just understand that there is something in the spiritual realm taking place at this particular visit and meeting. And what happens is there's a blessing back and forth. The blessing is upon Avraham, and the blessing is upon Melchizedek. And there's some understanding between these two. Do you have an understanding with Melchizedek? Has he fed you bread and wine? Has he released his blessing that he has to give over your life? Have you blessed him in return? Are you in the process of doing that? Do you have an understanding, a commitment with this Melchizedek, this person from the spiritual realm that comes in the manifest realm? Well, I hope you have. I hope you understand this is all part of the great strategic initiative, the plan from the very beginning. And so we have this process take place, and after this, carrying this blessing from Melchizedek, carrying this new sense of importance, he didn't deserve any of this kind of recognition. He didn't want any of its wealth, but he was getting it all, the favor of God all over his life in such a way. And now Avraham has his next visitation. Now we're ready to cut covenant. Covenant is a deeper level than just your first experience with the creator of the universe. Covenant says, I'm ready to be part of the strategic initiative. I'm ready to sell out completely. I'm ready to go to the deeper levels and say, whatever you need, whatever you want. Now we can start talking about specifics. Now we can start talking about instructions, about Torah. We can go beyond Torah to all the things that you wish to do that go beyond the Torah to serve mankind and serve this creation and fix it. Now we can go to all those things. Well, that's where he is, and so the Holy One appears to Avraham, and in this time he's going to say, to Avraham, he says, they argue, or they don't argue, they negotiate. First time we see this is Avraham is actually going to talk back. We've never had anybody talk back to God. No one's ever talked back to God. Noah didn't talk back. Adam didn't talk back to God. The answer is one question: where are you? And then, since that time, there's been nobody talk to God. Cain wouldn't say a word. God came to speak to him, and he wouldn't say a word. And Noah never said back. He just did what he was told. And Avraham at the very beginning, he never said anything back. He just went and left. But this time in chapter 15, we're going to see something new begins. As you get deeper into the levels of, now we can have a conversation. This is conversational relationship, not just obedience relationship. Do you have a conversational relationship with the Creator? Are you developing deeper levels of, and what's happening is there's a negotiation ongoing. The Holy One's telling him of all these wonderful things. He says, wait a minute. I don't have an heir. I want to set the terms of our covenant. I want to negotiate my consideration. And they negotiate over the terms of consideration. What Avraham is going to get out of this. And he's going to come down. He says, I'm going to give you seed as the sand, as the stars of the heavens. If you could if you could number the stars of the heavens, that's how many your seed's going to be. It's not going to be Eleazar, your Syrian servant. It's going to be so many that are way beyond that. It'll have another covenant process. He's going to say, not only that, but you've been called Avraham. Your name, Avraham. Exalted father, and it's been a joke to you and to the world because you ain't a daddy, you aren't a father, you have no kids. Your name has been a slander against you almost. What you got called, Avraham. Now, there's all sorts of things I could talk to you about the Hebrew of the word Avraham. And it's a play on words. It's kind of like, if you have several people and they go to a certain place, in English we would say, they're there. T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E-T-H-E-I-R, same words. Sound like a word, but we know if you see it written, it's a little bit different. They're there. Not they're there, like be good, be kind. It's they are there. Well, Hebrew is like that. Hebrew has sound-alikes. Has sound-alike words. And so we know that Avraham can mean exalted father, which is the bad joke on Avraham. But it can also sound alike. And what does it sound like? It sounds about ever, to cross over, to transcend, to the ultimate extent. So Avraham means both of those words. It means both of those things. But in the sense that we think about it as being an exalted father, it really was a joke because he didn't have any kids. He couldn't have any kids. Sarah couldn't have any children. And he was too old. And so he's going to have a name change. He says, not only are you not going to be called Avraham anymore, you're going to be called Avraham. And he gives him this new name. The Holy One gives this new name. He says, and that is, and he uses the part of that means you will be a father to multitudes. A father to many nations. A father to kings and kingdoms. If you thought this was just about ethnicity, if you thought this was just about Jews, if you thought this was just about Hebrew people who study the Torah all the time and wear certain clothing, and that's what you thought this was, you missed the whole story back to Avraham. He said, when I tell you who you're going to be, you're not going to be just a father in the natural realm to people of your blood descent. You're going to be a father to every people of every nation, every ethnicity, every age group, every classification. You're going to be a father to kings. You're going to be considered their father figure, their patriarch. Now, do you get it? From the very beginning, this has been about redeeming the nations, redeeming the people, the ultimate strategic initiative. Now, Abraham's name is even a picture of what that looks like. And the promises of the negotiation of the terms of the covenant were that you will become the father of the seed of all the nations and all the kings. The kingdoms will become the kingdoms of that guy Melchizedek that you saw, and he will become the priest. And so we see that take place. And then we see that this is all great for Avraham. He's got his covenant negotiated. And he goes home and tells Sarah, I'm sure. And Sarah looks around and feels her tummy. And for the last 99 years, she ain't nothing there. No matter what he told Avraham, ain't nothing there. No baby. No, she never felt that stretching of something living inside of her. She never felt that. Worst she ever got was indigestion. And so she comes up with a plan. Oy vey, be careful when you come up with a plan. This is the way of Cain. This is the way of the mind, the human mind, thinking of reasoning. And that. He says it's a simple matter. I have this lovely young servant. She can't get married. She doesn't have anybody to marry, and she's always liked Avraham, and Avraham, she trusts him, and she trusts me. She likes me. She knows I want a baby. She won't refuse. She won't object. Avraham won't resist. So let's just fix this process. In her mind, she has it all worked out where it's going to be. You know, every time you got it in your mind, figure out where it's going to be. That ain't the way it's going to be. Our mind is incapable of predicting the future and how this is going to work out. So it's going to turn out really ugly. I could talk to you about what happens when you do the things that are necessary for procreation with any human being, and how once you start the neural pathways and the hormone flush pathways of the arousal that takes place, that must take place for there to be that event take place, you've set patterns in your life, and you've developed soul ties with somebody, whether you wanted to and whether you meant to, or whether you thought you would or whether you didn't. And that's going to be there the rest of your life. And those things are going to be there trying to prevent anybody else from getting in that space. Well, I don't want to go too deep into that. But the issue of soul tie happened. And Avraham and Hagar is the perfect picture of how that begins to develop. And man, it got ugly in a hurry. Ishmael was born after some things. Even the Holy One even took care of Hagar and Ishmael, not for their own sake, for his covenant partner Avraham's sake. The resume kept getting built and built and built and built. The investment kept coming out further. And so we have that process, and then the Holy One meets with Avraham again. That's where our parsha ends. But the story of Avraham will not end. So I want to go back, and I want to go back to chapter 12, when the Holy One introduced himself to Avraham, because he wants to break the finity barrier and do this in our lives as well. Are you ready for him to break the finity barrier? Are you sick and tired of seeing the world and focusing on the world the way it does, and maybe letting the Holy One give you his perspective on you and your purpose in life and on how the world can be fixed? Well, what's going to happen is, in chapter 12, we read it. We had to ask ourselves, though, who exactly is the Holy One? Who is this breaking the finity barrier? Who is this one that's going to crash through the wall that separates invisibility and visibility, separates eternal from temporal? Who is this person? Who is this persona? Well, he's done some things in the past. He introduced himself first as Elohim in Parsha Bereshit. And this Elohim developed and showed us how he works, his signature. If you want to go back and learn about the Elohim signature, what his brush strokes, what the recognizable brush strokes of this master creator are, you go back to the first week we studied and the teaching that we did here in this room on Parsha Bereshit. But it has 12 basic elements, 12 beautiful ways in which this is how you know it's Elohim that's doing things, not men, not the world, not institutions, not religion. He has certain 12 brush strokes. And you see him and say, that can only be Elohim. Well, we have this Elohim signature that we've developed. And then he has developed a strategy of dealing with human beings. He dealt with Adam. He dealt with Noah. He dealt with Cain. He dealt with Enoch, as most people know him. He dealt with the people of the Tower of Babel. He's had this interaction. He's made it a point to, from time to time, intervene in life when it's necessary, when it's important for the future of the world. He's this great super of the condo complex. The creation is his baby, and he is not going to leave it to its own devices. I know, you hear all the science and all the stuff and all the news and all the media, and they're telling you about global this and global that and climate this and climate that. They forget one little detail. The creator of this universe is the one who's most deeply invested in its continuance, and the one who is most capable of dealing with every issue. And he has strategies that he goes through to make a cleansing process when it's necessary to do so. Well, so we learn to develop a little faith that man can't undo that which the Creator has done and will do. Well, we don't going to spend too much time on that, but you understand we're building this faith level, this confidence level in the Holy One. And so we see that he does intervene when it's necessary to do so, in the way, a strategic manner in which is necessary. We see that he loves to pick and train a strategic ally. He wants an ally, a human ally. How cool is that? Because, you see, it's you. It's you. It's you. You're the one he's got his eyes on. You and your little household, you and your family, you and your children, maybe those who haven't been born yet, maybe the grandchildren. He got his eye on your bloodline. He's got his eye on your generation. He's got your eye on your family, your household, your neighborhood. He's got your eye, like Avraham, he's got his eye. He said, I've got it at the right time, I'm going to intervene. So he's picking and choosing an ally. Do you want to be his ally? I want to be his ally. I can't, I'm so far gone in this process after 50 years. I don't know if I can talk about it and not cry. I don't want anything more than to be his ally. I don't want to be the world's ally. I don't want to be. I'm tired of worrying about favor of men and about whether they like it or whether they don't like it, whether they give me a job or whether they take my job away or whether they. I'm tired of worrying. You see, if I'm his ally, if he deigns to consider me worth the investment to make me his ally, the world can't take anything from me that I need. I know it's hard when you're looking at it from a different perspective. When you don't have that history. When you've not developed that level of trust with him, that he will do what he needs to do to take care of his own. But that's what I would say. He is wanting to pick us all, choose us all as his strategic ally. He has called us all to be his strategic ally. That's one thing about the whole story of Avraham. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with your race. It doesn't have anything to do with your ethnicity. It doesn't have to do with whether you're the physical seed of Avraham or whether you're an engrafted potential seed of Avraham. He said, all of you are called. But Yeshua made it clear, but only a few of you will be chosen. Because you see, only a few of you will choose to be the ally. And therefore, you must choose me before I choose you. And I must choose you before you choose me. It's one of those processes with Yeshua. So we're going to see, he wants to do that, and he wants to do the Avrahamic call. I want to talk to you about the three aspects of the Avrahamic call. Three spheres that they are called to go out of, to overcome, to transcend. Three things that will hold us back and keep us from being strategic allies of the king. First thing, he says, I want you to go out. Lech, Lecha, walk. Walk out. Walk for yourself. Walk on your own. Lech, Lecha, it's one of those sound-alikes. Lech word means to walk. Holek, halak, to walk. Get your feet moving. Don't stand still. Don't stay where you are. Get your feet moving. Take a walk with me, Avraham. Take a walk with me. Are you ready to walk with me? Noach walked with God. Enoch walked with God. We have a history in your bloodline of walking with God. Come on now. We can walk with God, but you got to move. You got to take some steps. So he says, I want you to walk, and I want you to walk for who you are, not for who you think you are. I want you to walk for who you are, not for who your culture tells you are. I want you to walk for who you are, not for who the world around you makes you think you are. I want you to walk for who you are in my eyes. You found favor in my eyes. You found grace, as he told Noah. You found grace. And how are you going to respond to that grace is the question. This has always been our question. It hasn't stopped, hasn't changed. Well, I said there's nothing new about the new covenant. It's the same covenant. You get grace, and what do you do to respond to grace? How do you respond to that grace? Here we are. So he says there's three things that when we walk you need to leave behind. You need to break free from some barriers. The first one is me'aret secha in Hebrew. From your dirt. Aretz is interesting because it's the same word. That it means dirt. It means land. It means territory. But you know what Avraham was formed from? The natural Avraham, Adam, the first Adam was formed from dirt. You need to walk away from your dirt. You need to walk away from the shell in which you were created. You need to walk away from the thing you started out being to become who you can be. So walk away from your dirt. Walk away from, yes, it involves physical territory that you're in, but it's more than that. It's all, because that physical territory's got a hold on you. We're Texans down here. Arkansans, some of us are Arkansans, some of us are Texans. But here's the deal, our dirt's got a hold of us. We need to walk away, be able to transcend that dirt, be more than that dirt, more than that region, more than that location, but also more than what it has done to us. What has Arkansas done to you? What has made you think what was important in life? What about Texas? What about South Africa? What about Australia? What about Philippines? What about Malaysia? What about Israel, the land? What about England, my beloved friends in Great Britain? What about Canada? What about Mexico? What about all the different places that I know you tune in from? The United Arab Emirates, all the places that you normally tune in from. What has that dirt done to you? You need to walk away. Leave the dust beneath you. Shake it off of your feet and walk away. Now you see some of the teachings of Yeshua coming into play here. But he said, okay, so to walk away from the Me'aretzeka, from your dirt, from your earth, from your region, and from your culture. You know, well, I'll get on. The second thing we're to walk out of is moladeteka. Moladeteka. There's a lot of syllables there. Moladeteka. From your ethnically ingrained perspectives. We live in a world that idolizes ethnicity. I'm not kidding. I'm not even exaggerating. You're told that you're supposed to be proud of your ethnicity, or ashamed of it, as the case, depending on what yours is at the given day and how it's floating in the society, because you're privileged or you're not privileged or whatever. This is so anti-God, anti the kingdom of heaven, anti the plan of the Holy One. Your ethnicity, you need to walk away. You are more than your ethnicity. Your ethnicity is what's holding you back. Your ethnicity and all of its ways and all of its teachings and all the things it's tried to tell you. Your fathers have inherited lies. I don't care who your fathers are. All your fathers, all your nationalities, all your cultures, all your ethnicities have inherited lies. And thus far you have been bound and limited by those lies. But I want you to walk with me, Avraham. I want you to walk out of those things. I want you to transcend and get beyond those things. I want you to, in the strategic initiative that goes beyond ethnicity, that goes beyond any of the cultural wars of this society, this world. I want you to understand we are building a counterculture across national lines. And to do that, you're going to have to get over some of the stuff you think is important to you, some of the stuff you value very highly in this process. Well, so, me'aretzeka, mi moladeteka, and the third thing is, mi bet avika. Walk away from your father's house. Now, this was hard for us. It was hard for Avraham. Now, his father was dead. His father had passed away. So it's not like he's walking, he's not young, so he's not dishonoring a father that's still providing for him and nurturing him. He's not even dishonoring in any way his father's memory. He's just saying that all my father could teach me was only a foundation, the best he could teach me. If he taught me the best in the world, he was the best human father that ever lived, he could only give me a foundation. I'm supposed to go further than that. I'm supposed to transcend, honoring him the whole way, appreciating all the contributions that he gave to me, forgiving him for all the things he didn't do that I wished he would have done, not blaming him for all the things that happened to me that were under his watch. I can transcend my father's house. If you don't think you're stuck in your father's house, go to your next family reunion. And watch yourself fall into the same pecking order you had when you were a little child running around at the last family reunion. And you still behave with next to your sisters and your brothers and your cousins the same. If they're 40 years older, and as soon as you go back and you see that you're in that context, you begin to revert to being whatever age you were whenever your social customs were developed, and your pecking order between the bunch of you, and the stories you always told began to be told. Now, he said, I want you to be bigger than your family story. I want you to be bigger than your culture and your father's house. I want you to understand that we're building a new story here. A great, grand new testimony. And when it comes time for your children, they're going to go beyond where you are. If you're ever a father and you've had children, and they say, do you want your child to be just like you? No. Heaven forbid. I mean, I hope they get something good from me, but I want more for my children than I ever accomplished. I want them to go way beyond where I came from. That will honor me if they go way beyond me. I look at my children, my sons, and my daughters, and I think, yes, they're going to go so far beyond where I went. And they all honor me like somehow I helped them, and maybe I laid a foundation at my best days. And maybe they overcame the things I did wrong in my worst days. But they're going to go so much further than I go. That is the hunger. He said, come out, walk with me. Go beyond the limitations of mi bet avika, your father's house. Now, if we're stuck trying to be like our daddy, he may have been a good man. Hopefully he was. Now, he may have also had some issues, as most of our fathers did, and most of us as fathers do. But here's the deal. If we're trying to still be like our Father on earth, what are we not being? We can't go to the further levels of being like our Father who is in heaven. We can't embrace fully the power in our life, in our generation, of the transcendence factor and the idea that we are being called to this grand strategic initiative to all nations, beyond our household. We're like Noah. We're focused only on our own family, our own nuclear group. He said, no, I want you to focus on what it will take to be a father of nations, a father to kings, a father to nations and governments, government authorities. So that's the three things we're to walk out of. We're to walk past. And it's not out of disrespect. He didn't say, I want you to confront them. He didn't say, I want you to judge them. He didn't say, I want you to feel you're better than they are. He said, I need you to break free and have a bigger picture, a better picture. Be appreciative for whatever they gave you. Be understanding of whatever failures they had that led them to the mistakes they made. Be aware that they probably did the best they knew how to do. A lot of us have to deal with that issue. Well, my parents were less than perfect. We could get specific, or we could just say, you know what, they did the best they could do. And if they didn't, they did the best, trying to do the best they could do. And they tried to do the best they could try to do. You see how this works. And so there's these three things. He said, I want you to get out of these. I want you to get beyond this. I want you to see things from the kingdom in eternal, immortal, invisible, redemption, fix the world kind of a standpoint, not just, well, this is the way we do it in my house. That's the way we did it at my daddy's house. That's the way my father always, no, we want to go beyond, way beyond that. Well, that's the first call of Avraham. The second thing is, I want you to go to something. Avraham, I want you to come out. I want you to go out of these things, but I want you to go to something. And in English, we read it, to a land that I will show you, to a eretz, to a dirt, to a realm of influence that I tell you to do. Now, this is going to be described in the book of Hebrews. Wow. In the book of Hebrews, it's going to be saying, Abraham was looking for a city. He was looking for a dirt. He was looking for a land, an eretz, but it wasn't like we were looking for here on earth. It wouldn't get, that need couldn't be filled by Shechem, and it couldn't be filled by Hebron, and it couldn't be filled by Memphis of Egypt. It couldn't be filled by any place on earth because he wasn't a city on earth. He was looking for the conjunction of heaven and earth, a place where the New Jerusalem coming down that he saw in his vision, that Yeshua would talk about in Revelation 3 times, coming down from the heavens, the city without foundations made by man, whose builder and maker is God. Well, he has this vision. Are you going somewhere? Now, I don't mean are you going to heaven when you die. Yes, I hope that issue is decided. And if it's not, please decide that quickly where you want to go. But I'm hoping we're all beyond the idea of just going to heaven when we die. Where are we going while we live? Where are we taking our family? Where are we taking our children, our children's children? Where are we taking the people we know? Where are we taking the poor and the widow and the fatherless and the foreigner who lives within our gates, within our realm, that is in our sphere of influence, that we have input to? Where are we taking people, and where are we going? Are you looking for something better than what the world has to offer? Better than the latest ministry or foundation has to offer? Better than the latest scientific program has to offer, a government program has to give? Are you taking beyond that to the realm of divine intervention, where the finity barrier is broken and kingdom of heaven inflows in this world? Well, to a land which I will show you, a land unseen, a land incorruptible, a place beyond the veil of human sight and human imagination, which can only occur, can only exist by virtue of the presence and the shadow of the Holy One himself moving and acting in that realm. Are we focusing, are we good with religion? Are we good with some sort of form of knowledge base, some form of science? No, I can't be satisfied with anything less than that city that Avraham was looking for. And I hope you can't either. We want to be able to build that into our worldview, build that into our conversations, build that into our shalom and our peace and our joy that's in our heart. This city with foundations that only God can build and that his power only can sustain. Well, then to finish the process of the chapter 12, the Holy One gives 7 I will elements of his strategic initiative. The strategic initiative that he's releasing has 7 elements, 7 promises. The first one is Ve'eska legadoy gadol. Ve'eska legadoy gadol. I will build of you. Asa, I will build out of you. I will take the raw material, which is your life. I will take the raw material, which is your life, and I will build a great nation, a great people. Now, out of what we do, his redemptive plan, his strategic initiative, is the first element of it is to start building a great people. I'm looking at a bunch of great people in this room. I'm looking at great people through this camera into your houses, into your vehicles, wherever you're listening to me. I'm listening to people who God is calling to be part of this great people. So this is my strategic initiative. Part 1 is you got to have a vision to become a part of a great people, more than the ethnicity, more than the culture, more than any of the things you're in, the religion, the social group, the community, faith assembly, whatever you're in. I want you to have a picture of something bigger than that, something world transforming. So a great people. The second thing is, I will make you Avraham. He says that this is a little hard, got a lot of syllables. The avarekeka. I always have trouble with that. The avarekeka. What it means is, I'm going to make you a blessing. Oh, I'll bless you. I will bless you. I will release you from limitations and restrictions. You're all bound up. You're all bound up in your heads and your way of thinking. You're all bound up in your emotional reactions to things. You're all bound up in your theology and your ideology and your politics. You're all bound up in your political theories. You're all bound up in your economic systems that you're caught up in. You're all bound up. He said, I want you to be released from those limitations and restrictions. I want you to have a vision for what's in the eternal realm, invisible realm, being brought into your world and having a bearing upon your world today. I will bless you. The next thing is, I will make of you a glorious, great, big reputation, name. I will make your name great. Not Abram. I'm going to change that one. That's sort of a joke, right? It's like, exalted father who doesn't have any kids. I'm going to change. I'm going to make your name. I'm going to make who you are. I'm going to make your identity transformative in the world. Change the world around you. Next thing is, fourth thing is, I'm going to veheya baracha. I not only am going to bless you, I am going to make you a blessing. I'm going to make you someone who releases people from restrictions and limitations. I'm going to make you someone who helps other people break out of the barriers and the boundaries and the bondages that they find themselves trapped in. Who gives them a vision for heaven coming to earth. the will of the Father being done on earth as it is in heaven. I'm going to give you that ability to do so. That's part of the strategic initiative. Fifth thing, the Avarecha v'Marakecha. And those who will bless you and let you be who you were created to be, let you function as you are, release you from limitation and restrictions. Oh, man, what I'm going to do for them. Wow, it's going to be multiplied. It's going to be like synergy. If they will just release you to be who you are and do what you do, then I will release them to do what they are, be who they are, and do what they do. You will see this grand expansion of kingdom things begin to flow like popcorn coming out of the container, just bursting forth. That's what I will do for those who bless you. This is not just about getting money when you need money, when you want to send money to Israel and get money. This is about learning how to live an abundant, fruitful life. Yeshua said, I come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. This is his idea of what that looks like whenever not you are just abundant, but everyone around you begins to prosper and be blessed, not just economically, but spiritually and all ways as well. The sixth part of the seven elements are umakaleka aor. And those who choose to slander you, those who choose to speak ill of you, those who kalal you, those who try to diminish you or demonize you or dehumanize you, those who in any way do not bless you, them I will put under lock and key. I will put chains around their neck and hold them back. I will put them in situations where they cannot do the harm they wish to do to you. Though the nations rage and the peoples imagine a vain thing, though an army encamp against you, I will jerk their chain back. That's not that I'm going to put some sort of a spiritual curse on people. He doesn't do that. What he does is he lets limits be placed upon them they can't exceed. This is why I encourage people not to be too freaked out about unclean spirits and or even Hasatan himself. He got a chain around their legs and his feet and their neck, so to speak. The Holy One will only let them do certain amounts. Well, I'll leave that for another day for you to think about. But here's the issue. He says, those who will curse you, those who will try to limit you, those who will speak ill of you and try to diminish or belittle who you are, those are the people that will not have any impact. The other people who bless you, those are the ones who are going to be blowing and going and flowing. But those others, he says, the seventh thing, here's the final capstone of the strategic initiative. And I will make you a blessing to every family on the face of the earth. Every little house where every little place where there's a mother and a father or a child or every little place, every little dwelling, every place in the world, everywhere you go, you see I'm counterbalancing. I told you the problem with the world is they're going to every nook and cranny of the world and they're carrying their lip with them. I got an antidote for that. I'm sending my people, the ones who will answer my call, the ones who will respond to this strategic initiative and walk in it, and you will go forth, and everything they mean for evil, you will turn around and bring forth good, because you will become a blessing to every family, every ethnicity, every generation, every bloodline on the face of the earth. That's the grand strategic initiative. And yes, the principalities and powers will stand in shock and awe that he pulled it off, that he did what he said he was going to do. Well, it's as sure as the sunrise. It's as sure as the sunset. We're only in portion of the strategy right now. We're part of the strategic release. But we're there. Wherever we are, it's our job to begin to release these things. It's time to go. Blessings to you. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you next week. Write in and let us know you were here, you visited with us, and any questions or comments or prayer requests that you might have. I wanted to tell Dion in South Africa that my brother Rick has made it not only out of the hospital but back to our fellowship today. So you've been praying for him. Me people, you've been praying for him. He's here and he's back and he's strong. And he's looking good. So, amen. Shabbat shalom. See you next week. Bye-bye.